Welcome to the channel, everyone. On this channel, we share stories of average Joes around the world and their not so average issues. Let's start with the first story. Runaway Daughter goes no contact for years and then returns with an unexpected request. Am I in the wrong for saying no? My 61 female daughter, now 29 female, ran away from home 12 years ago and has steadily been making her way back into my life with all sorts of bizarre demands. Am I in the wrong for thinking she's entitled and refusing to help her? Before getting into the current issue, I'll start off with some history. My daughter is not my real daughter per se. My husband and I adopted her from her teenage mother, who at the time was my husband's sister's friend, Anna. My husband, Frank, and I had gotten married a few years back and we were trying with no results. So, when we got the opportunity to adopt Anna's newborn, we were more than happy to do so, having waited all this time to start our own family. That's how we brought home our daughter, Jenna. Jenna was an absolute joy as a baby, but strayed further and further away from that angelic nature of hers as she grew up. She was a problematic child. We liked to call it mischievous then, but looking back, I think I still have nightmares about it. She would run around with scissors and use them to destroy curtains and carpets. She would hurl stones at the ducks in the park. She would break any new toy given to her within the first 24 hours like it was a personal mission. Although Frank and I tried to tame her and teach her to be gentler, nothing really worked. Frank thought it best to leave her alone, as she would fizzle out eventually. But Jenna only got more tedious. She was not the nicest to the other kids, but somehow she wound up being a ringleader of her little group of friends, and we soon heard complaints from the other parents that she was daring them to do dangerous and unhealthy things like eating dirt, putting spiders under someone's shirt, yeah, that sort of stuff. I think this is around the time we really got stern with Jenna. She must have been about 5 or 6. We started supervising every bit of her playtime and reprimanded her every time we caught her doing something unacceptable. We had to drag her home, usually because she was likely to throw a big fit in public and embarrass us in front of everyone. She would say she hated us and go running to her room and wail loudly and refuse to have any food until we apologized and begged for her to eat something. No matter how much we tried, it seemed like we couldn't get Jenna to like us, much less love us, and we didn't know where we were going wrong as parents. Things didn't get much better as Jenna grew up. Our relationship with her was full of tension all the time. Surprisingly, she did well at school and was often praised by her teachers for it. At the same time, there were quite a few remarks about her attitude that most of them brushed off as being a phase. At 11, Jenna found out she was adopted when she overheard Frank and I discussing it one day. We had always planned to sit her down properly and tell her, preferably a time where she was mature enough to accept and understand the concept better. Instead, the slip-up led her to completely lash out at us, and she blamed us for controlling her even though we were not her real parents, and she would share this bit of information with all her friends. Frank and I were obviously hurt in a way I can't explain. With this knowledge in the mix, Jenna lost all regard for our authority. She would threaten to tell her real parents about how awful we were if we ever refused her anything, and she would threaten to run away if we tried to impose any rules on her. Basically, all efforts to discipline her would be met with, "You're not even my real parents. I don't need to listen to you." We tried to sit her down and explain to her many times what her adoption meant to us. But in her eyes, we were always the bad guys for taking her away from her real parents, I suppose. And then, Sweet 16 rolled around and we threw Jenna a party and invited all her friends. At the end of the night, she got up and said that she had something to say, and she announced that this was going to be her last year in this town as she planned on leaving soon to look for her biological parents. Frank and I were simply devastated and appalled. This had come out of nowhere. She had made the gut-wrenching statement without batting an eye towards either of us. What followed was an angry and turbulent year of fights and arguments, and finally Jenna left us with nothing but a note saying goodbye. She phoned us a few months down the line to tell us she was living with her birth mother and that she was doing well, and that she didn't want us to come looking for her. Naturally, we tried to move on from this betrayal and forgot about her the best way we could. It has been 12 years since this episode, and Frank and I have finally made peace with ourselves. We try to live without bringing up any of the bad memories from 12 years ago, including Jenna. I find that we're much happier and complete even though we're childless. However, Jenna has once again disrupted our well-deserved peace by making a re-entry into our lives as of late. At first, we were very surprised when an unknown number reached out to us a few weeks ago, claiming to be Jenna. She started telling us how happy she was that we were still around and giving us updates on her life since she left. She tells us that she has a baby and her biological mom passed away a few years ago, leaving her with nothing. Jenna has started calling us weekly and even invited herself to our home, saying that she misses her family. She wants to introduce her son to us so that he has a family, as the father left her upon the news of the pregnancy. Jenna thinks she still has a place in our family. What's worse is that she's of the opinion that we owe her a helping hand as her parents. Yes, the reason for her sudden reappearance became crystal clear when she spent half an hour on the phone the other day weeping about certain operations that her son had to undergo for his medical conditions. She does not have the money for it and expects us to help her out of this situation as the boy's grandparents. When I put my foot down, she cursed at me and called me selfish for keeping all my money instead of using it to help out my only daughter. She says I'm vain for not supporting her at a time like this and claims that this is our only chance to rebuild connections and become a family again. I really don't intend to have anything else to do with Jenna or her son, even if he has several complications and needs my help. Am I in the wrong for refusing to help her, even though it has to do with her son? Should I put aside my differences to help the innocent boy out? Or should I continue to stand my ground against Jenna, who is clearly only after Frank and I for our money? Original poster: your daughter is a Class A gold digger. She only wants to reconnect because you're the only stable resource of income she knows. A no-show for 12 years, and then she expects you to take her back without an apology or explanation, all because she has your grandson? That's rich. If it were up to me, I would be suspicious of a lot of things in this situation. You say your daughter has only contacted you through the phone. So, how do you know if she's really telling the truth about her son? If she is, I don't think punishing an innocent boy for his mama's mistakes is a good idea. You should ask her to come over and bring her son, as well as the medical reports related to his problems, based on which you can choose to help him. I also advise you to snoop around on your daughter's financial situation and find out if she is fit to raise him in the first place. Since she seems like a personality, it's likely that this might reflect on her parenting and make a dent in the boy's childhood. I told a drunk girl to break up with her boyfriend. Am I in the wrong? My brother, 22 male, has always had a hard time finding dates or talking to girls because he's one of those shy and introverted guys. Because of this, all his family and friends are always making fun of him for being the forever single one, and it depresses him. But he says that he rarely feels attracted to people, and so he rarely makes the first move to ask anyone out. Something changed a few months ago when he was out at a bar with a couple of friends. He was dared to pick up a girl, and lo and behold, the first girl he approached, electricity. My brother was actually excited about somebody for once, and he wanted to pursue her romantically, of course. Fast forward a few months later, and he's actually making progress. He calls me and tells me that he's properly dating her now and that he's genuinely completely taken by her, finds her to be absolutely amazing. Ah, young love. I'm obviously delighted for him and ask if I can finally see this mysterious girlfriend when I come to visit him next month. And he says, yes, of course. This is my brother's first relationship, so I have some words to have with this girl, meaning I need to give her the usual spiel of if you heard my brother. A month later, brother is super duper excited to introduce girlfriend and I to each other. Says I'm going to love her and that we're going to get along great because she's got the same sense of humor as us. He's rambling like an eager puppy, and I think he must really like this girl. I've never seen him fawn over a person this much before. I'm supposed to meet the girlfriend at a party that night along with a couple of my old college friends. My brother goes to the same uni I attended. So, in serial order of things, here's what happened. Brother running late because he fell asleep at the library studying. I'm already at the party with said college friends, so I'm just waiting for him to show up with his girlfriend. One of my friends introduces me to this sorority girl. She's a little tipsy, progressively getting tipsier as she's down whatever in her cup, but she's funny and cute, so I continue to entertain her. After about half an hour of back and forth, she sighs and says that she's got a problem. I ask her what it is, and she says she's seeing this dude but doesn't know how to break things off with him. She says that she doesn't have a proper reason beyond the fact that he's boring and moves slow. I laugh because she's obviously inviting me to help her solve this problem. So I lean forward and kiss her and say, now you have a reason. My phone dings because my brother is texting to let me know he's on his way, and the girl leaves to find the guy she's seeing and breaks it off. You've probably figured it out by now. Yep, the guy she was seeing was my one and only brother, whose heart she processed to stomp all over that night by telling him she accidentally kissed someone else. My brother is heartbroken. He really liked this girl, and he's devastated because he had been saving their first kiss together as he wanted to take things slow. I feel like I might be partially responsible for this, but also I didn't know that she was the girlfriend, so am I really at fault? My best friend thinks I should come clean to my brother and tell him what happened because I'm in the wrong here. Am I in the wrong for having a celebrity crush that does not look like my fiancé? My fiancé, 28 female, is from a very religious household and heavily believes in the concept of remaining pure and untouched prior to marriage. Although I'm not really on board with the idea, I love her, so I've agreed to her terms. It's becoming easier to live with since we're getting married in a few months, and I can't wait to get to show her how much I love her. A few days back, while we were out at lunch with a bunch of friends, the topic of celebrity crushes had come up, and everyone was pitching in names of their favorite celebrities, etc. As the talk devolved into much R-rated things like fantasy, threesomes, I noticed my fiancé getting quite upset. I thought it must have had to do with the current conversation, as stuff like this often embarrassed her, so I figured she would get over it once there was a change in the topic. Except a few days passed and I noticed my fiancé had been cross with me. Her answers and texts were short and snappy, and she had stopped referring to me by her usual pet names. So I asked her if I had upset her somehow. At this, fiancé snapped because, why don't you ask Riley? Riley is a close friend of mine. I was shocked and completely lost, not knowing where this had come from or what Riley had to do with this. I sit her down and tell her to explain the problem to me, and fiancé simply bursts into tears and accuses me of cheating on her with Riley. I was really confused, since this was the first time I was being accused of something like this. I have no idea where she even got this from. Riley, fiance, and I have been good friends for years now. After calming down a little, fiance explains that my celebrity crush, as I had name dropped during lunch with my friends that day, very closely resembled our friend Riley as opposed to my previous celebrity crush who shared the same blonde locks and long nose as my fiance. This must mean that my attractions had shifted somehow. When I laughed and told fiance that she was being delusional, she got angry and started calling me a liar and a cheat. She insists that there's no actual way I put up with her this long without having cheated at some point. And I must have with Riley, and my new celebrity crush is an indication that I like her. She says that there was always something suspicious about the way I looked at and talked to Riley differently. I don't know how to tell my fiance that her accusations are completely baseless and false without enraging her even more. I don't want this to become a full-fledged fight, but I don't want to leave her without at least clarifying that she's made a drastic assumption with no evidence whatsoever. She's currently crying and saying things like, I don't even know if we should get married anymore, and she's asking me to leave the house, and I don't know how to tell her she's crazy without triggering her even more. Judgment. This is one weird story. Your fiancé is accusing you of cheating based on a small celebrity crush? Damn, it sounds like a big case of projection to me. If you've not heard of projection, it's basically when someone tries to gaslight you into thinking you did something wrong when it's actually them who did the thing. She had absolutely no reason to jump to conclusions and be so suspicious of you out of nowhere, unless she has something to be guilty about, don't you think? It sounds to me like your fiancé might have done something wrong and is trying to get you to take the fall for it and cancel the wedding so she doesn't have to admit the truth. Of course, this is speculation. It could also be that the stress is really causing her to stop seeing sense. Either way, I think you should have an honest conversation with her and strictly tell her she can't cry her way out of it. We hope you enjoyed today's stories. Use the comment section below to state your verdict on the situation, express your opinions, and share some valuable advice.